Hello and welcome back to Vox Terra, aka Hidden Agendas. Today, I want to talk about this news headline, or start with this news headline from NPR, May 1st of 2025. The House strikes a blow against California in a fight over EVs. And here we hear that the House of Representatives has voted to undo 3 federal waivers that let California set strict vehicle pollution standards. 2 involving heavy trucking, and a third to reverse a state rule that would require all new vehicles in the state to be zero emission by 2035. And this is a really big deal because California is a major part of the automotive market. So by doing this, the House of Representatives, which we are assuming at this point is probably largely Republican voting this way, is trying to really push back against the move towards electrification or towards electric vehicles. The NPR article says, what is a California waiver? And here they say, picture Los Angeles in the 1940s and 50s. Beautiful beaches, palm trees that were impossible to see behind a thick haze of choking smog. So because of that, according to the article, the state began regulating air pollution well before the federal government did. Well, that brings us to this California waiver. Each time California wants to add a new, stricter rule, it has to obtain a waiver from the EPA. And according to this NPR article, it's done so 75 times already. Okay, so back to today, quoting from the AP, the Republican-controlled U.S. House voted Thursday to block California from enforcing first-in-the-nation rules, phasing out the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035. Now, to find out about who voted for this and who voted against it, I just searched up again and I found a Washington Examiner headline much more boldly titled, House Republicans vote to slash California vehicle emission standards, April 30th of 2025. Now notice that difference, House Republicans vote to slash versus the House. And here we wonder, is it all these attacks on NPR public radio why they would be afraid to mention Republicans? Well, that Washington Examiner article broke down the vote like this: 231 to 191, 231 to rescind, with 13 of those votes coming from Democrats to vote against California. So that shows you there the majority of the votes to attack California's rule, that is coming from Republicans. Well, just to help show you who's who in the zoo with all this, I'm going back to NPR again, and here they cite the Union of Concerned Scientists, arguing that these rules that California has are more than flexible enough and just fine, and we need them. So I want to highlight them because I want to highlight some of what I consider the good guys, and I would definitely say Union of Concerned Scientists is a great resource for you. Then they also quote the Natural Resource Defense Council as stating, this vote is an unprecedented attack and reckless attack on states' legal authority to address vehicle pollution, causing asthma, lung disease, and heart conditions. And a whole heck of a lot more than that. Anybody who thinks it is fine to just keep breathing in auto exhaust and diesel, live near a bus depot, live near a crowded, busy street, and go out for a walk or a jog on those days, and you're going to feel it in your lungs. And those poor kids breathing in every day who walk to school or ride those buses. Citing Union of Concerned Scientists, there's known carcinogens in diesel and auto exhaust, benzene, I believe. So it's not just imaginary, and I'm saying that sarcastically, imaginary greenhouse gases, but this stuff is bad for you to breathe in. You don't believe it? Stand behind your car and breathe that in. Okay, so what about the bad guys, if you want to call it that? Well, here the NPR says, the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, a trade group representing automakers, had pushed hard for Congress to step in and overrule California. So we got them, the elements within the auto industry, maybe the dominant of it. I'm not sure who's behind the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, but I have shown you in many, many of my videos, take a look at a great journalistic website, Open Secrets, that tracks campaign donations. And there you will see, mon ami, millions every year in fossil fuel donation money going to American politicians. Largely, and they only track at the federal level, largely lion's share to the Republicans. But I wonder what's going on at the state levels, county levels. And it's that simple. It's that lion's share of fossil fuel money. Why the Republicans talk about, well, freedom of choice for your vehicles and blah, blah, blah. This is it's a subsidized industry, people. The auto industry is subsidized on our backs. There's no free choice about any of this. But that's why they're doing it. That's why they're coming down against climate change, against these standards, even though Trump says, hey, there's a energy emergency, people. We got to drill more. Well, if there's an energy emergency, then why don't we also want to have smaller vehicles and consume less? Why don't we want to have more efficient vehicles? Why is his administration and the Republicans also standing in the way of stricter auto fuel efficiency, even from fossil fuels? And don't buy into these arguments against EVs. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of these are emanating from those different think tanks and organizations that are fossil fuel funded that I've shared with you in the past. And the arguments are always the same, and we hear them repeated by everybody. What about the batteries? Well, what about the batteries in fossil fuel cars? They've got batteries too. Where do you go with them? What do you do with them? The problem's the same. Vehicles are too big, everything's just too large, and America does not have a good recycling infrastructure. And that whole what about the batteries leaves out just the daily cost of what about not only the batteries in fossil fuel cars, but what about the fossil fuels being poured into it every day? Well, you just burn it and put it in the air and breathe it in. No problem there. That's a problem. Just people aren't thinking about it. What about the oil changes? Where do we go with all the oil you change? Just no thought given to that. What happens to the gas stations when that ground is so contaminated? What about all the leaks we just see? Oil leaking on the ground. What about all that? Just goes into the water, no problem, goes into the soil. What about all the oil spills, leaks, the pipelines bursting? What about the daily refining of these petrochemicals and the people who live near those plants? That whole industry is just taken as normal and ignored by our media. Why is it ignored by our media? The high cost of it, I say, for similar reasons why our politicians champion the industry. It's a powerful, wealthy industry with ties to the media. And you see that obviously with the auto industry and their daily barrage of ads. And this gets us almost lastly to my favorite topic is I do not like China bashing, because here in China, they're making cheap, affordable EVs that we could definitely afford to purchase while we transition to EVs, which we don't seem to be doing. But instead, just get the whole public, get the politicians, everybody to just rattle your sabers at China. Don't try to learn anything good from them. Just anything they do good, spin it as bad and call it a day. Not only don't buy their EVs, but don't transition on our end, and get the whole planet as best as possible to aim their guns and form military alliances against China and try to get them to stop doing business with them. Even though that country has been making a lot of progress, consistent progress, on going greener. And just to leave it off of what's next, the House of Representatives rescinded the bill, and next it will be going to the Senate. I hope you found this interesting, somewhat entertaining, enlightening. If you did, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. You're clicking that notification bell. You're commenting. You're liking. Donate at Patreon. Thank you, Bella Grissi Environmental Coffee House. I might put up a link to a sponsor, an Etsy shop that's working with us now. I think it's called Revolutionary Graphics. And right now they got a pretty cool t-shirt about drilling for oil or against drilling for oil. Give that a look. And as always, until next time, peace be with you.